All right, let's dive into this mountain of research you've got here on Aether Industries, Q3 FY25 financials, articles, reports, presentations. Someone's been doing their homework. Looks like you're trying to become the ultimate Aether expert.
Well, got to stay ahead of the game, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. But don't worry, that's where we come in. We'll help you sift through it all, pull out the really important stuff, and you'll be ready to impress at your next meeting or maybe, dominate trivia night.
Trivia night, that's my jam.
Right. Okay, well, luckily, expert speakers here with us, and they can break down these numbers and trends better than anyone.
I do enjoy a good spreadsheet. But beyond the raw figures, we're going to explore, what really makes Aether tick. How are they doing compared to their competitors? And maybe even uncover a few clues about their future.
Ooh, crystal ball time. Love it. Okay, so Aether's Q3 FY25. Big picture. It's a story of, well, pretty impressive growth. Revenue's up significantly year on year, and their profits climbing even faster.
And what makes this even more remarkable is that they had that fire at their Site 2 facility last year in FY24.
Yeah.
Caused a lot of damage.
Right, I remember reading about that.
But get this, they got approval from the GPCB to resume operations in January 2025, just in time to contribute to these stellar Q3 results. Talk about resilience.
Yeah, that's a serious comeback story. To come back from something like that and still post these kinds of numbers definitely says something about their operational strength. Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. What are we looking at for consolidated revenue?
So consolidated revenue, that's Aether A&D, its subsidiaries,
Mhm.
right, jumped from about 1.67 billion rupees in Q2 FY25 to a very impressive 2.33 billion rupees in Q3.
Hang on, that's...
It's a 40% increase quarter on quarter.
Wow, okay, and profit.
Even more impressive, consolidated profit after tax went from 174 million rupees in Q2 FY25 to 434 million rupees in Q3.
Wait, so that's their profit almost tripled quarter on quarter.
You got it. 149% surge.
Okay, clearly things are going well for them. What about standalone figures? Just Aether, no subsidiaries.
Standalone revenue hit 1.97 billion rupees for Q3, and standalone profit after tax was 409 million.
So yeah, across the board, they're killing it. It definitely looks like their strategy is working. But what exactly is driving this success? Let's unpack that a bit.
One of the big things is their partnerships. They locked in a multi-year contract with Baker Hughes to manufacture 6 new products globally, and a big focus on India's oil and gas sector with that deal.
Oh yeah, that's smart, tapping into a booming market like that.
Exactly. It gives them a huge boost, not just India, but globally, partnering with a name like Baker Hughes.
Plus, I was looking through their investor presentation, and it sounds like that's just the tip of the iceberg with partnerships. They're really making collaboration a priority, huh?
It's a big part of their strategy.
Okay, so partnerships are one piece of the puzzle. What else?
Well, they're also aggressively expanding. Their Site 3 plus facility is on track to be finished by the end of FY25. Site 4 is already up and running, and they're not even stopping there. They've broken ground on Site 5.
Whoa, they are not messing around. This is more than just increasing production. This is them building a platform for some serious long-term growth, aiming for a dominant position in the specialty chemicals industry, huh?
Seems that way, yeah.
But it's not just about factories and contracts. I noticed they also highlighted those 33 customer audits and certifications they completed this quarter. Clearly, they're not just building factories, they're building relationships too.
Makes sense, right. A strong focus on quality and transparency, that it goes a long way in attracting and keeping big clients.
Absolutely. So we've got strategic partnerships, ambitious expansion plans, and a dedication to customer satisfaction. Everything's coming up roses, right? But there are always those less obvious details tucked away in the financials. Anything we should be looking out for there?
You're right, there's always more to the story. Like, take the Site 2 fire, for example. We see the overall strong numbers, but there were definitely costs associated with that disruption and the rebuilding efforts.
Ah, right, those hidden costs.
Exactly. We could see it reflected in their exceptional items.
Yeah.
Things like insurance premiums and revenue from selling off scrap from the damaged facility. One-time expenses, thankfully, shouldn't impact their long-term performance too much.
That's good to hear.
But here's another interesting detail I noticed. Their investment in solar power. They just commissioned a 15 milliW solar plant with some really high-tech auto tracker modules. It's already generating some serious savings on energy costs. They're reporting up to 80% energy savings.
That's huge UGE, and not just good for their bottom line, but for, the planet.
Right. It shows their commitment to sustainability, which is becoming more and more important these days.
Smart move, all around. So we see a company focused on the long game, making strategic investments for the future. But how do they stack up against the competition? Where does Aether fit into the larger specialty chemicals world?
Well, the specialty chemical sector as a whole is doing really well right now. Growing demand from a bunch of different industries, new technologies, and a big push for sustainable solutions. It's a good time to be in this space.
So the tide is rising for everyone, but is Aether riding the wave better than the rest?
From the data you've gathered, it seems like they're outperforming a lot of their competitors. Their year-on-year revenue and profit growth are way above the industry average.
So they're not just riding the wave, they're like surfing ahead of it.
Exactly. They're definitely punching above their weight. But, of course, there's always competition. Some of their rivals are also making big investments in expansion and technology.
So it's a race to the top, basically.
You could say that. How well Aether maintains this momentum will depend on their ability to innovate, adapt to the market, and, of course, execute their plans effectively.
It's a high-stakes game.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and look ahead. Any hints from these reports about where Aether is headed next?
Well, their management has indicated they expect continued growth driven by, the expansion plans, new partnerships, and they're making a move into some really interesting new business segments.
Okay, hold on. Tell me more about these new segments. What are we talking about here?
Pharmaceuticals, agrochemicals, renewables, and sustainability, all areas with huge potential for growth.
Wow, that's ambitious. It sounds like they're not just content with riding the specialty chemicals wave, they're trying to catch a few others at the same time. Is that a smart
Well, diversifying like this could definitely shield them from market ups and downs.
move?
Plus, these new areas, especially being first in India with some of them, could give them a serious edge. It opens up all sorts of new revenue streams.
Strategic and, I have to say, pretty exciting. Let's dive deeper into these new ventures and see what we can uncover. What specifically are they planning to do in each of these segments?
Well, if you look at their investor presentation, there are some interesting clues there. Pharmaceuticals, for example, it seems they're going to focus on developing and manufacturing what are called advanced intermediates and active pharmaceutical ingredients.
Okay, so ELI 5, what exactly are those?
Think of them as like the essential chemical building blocks for medications. And this plays right into Aether's strengths, right?
Mm.
Complex chemistry, high purity chemicals. That's what the pharma industry needs more and more of these days.
Got it. So not like they're suddenly going to be a full-blown drug company. It's more about taking what they're already good at and applying it to this, massive and growing market. Makes sense.
Yeah, it's a smart move. And they're taking a similar approach with agrochemicals, that expertise in chemical synthesis, formulation. It's perfect for developing new and innovative crop protection solutions, fertilizers, all that good stuff.
Especially in India, where agriculture is such a huge part of the economy. Aether could really make a difference there. And of course, it's a big market opportunity.
Exactly. And then there's renewables. That's where things get especially interesting, I think. They could be really instrumental in developing and manufacturing those key components for, solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, all those renewable energy technologies.
So not necessarily building the entire wind turbine, but like the essential chemical ingredients that make it all work.
Precisely. And remember that solar plant they invested in. That's not just about saving on their own energy bills. It's
Right.
a statement, right? Putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to renewables.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, sustainability, always a hot topic. But in the context of a chemicals company, what does that actually mean for Aether?
It means going beyond just producing chemicals, right? It's about the entire life cycle of their products, their processes, from sourcing raw materials all the way to manufacturing and even disposal. So we're talking eco-friendly manufacturing, minimizing waste, designing products that are biodegradable, recyclable, the whole nine yards.
It's about being a responsible corporate citizen, basically.
Yeah, and it's not just the right thing to do anymore. It's becoming a smart business strategy. Consumers want to see it, investors want to see it, companies that prioritize sustainability, they're the ones who are going to win in the long run.
Totally. Okay, so Aether's got these big plans, this exciting vision for the future. But let's go back to the financials for a minute. Those ambitions need a solid foundation, right? Let's take a closer look at their statement of assets and liabilities, both standalone and consolidated.
Sounds good.
Now, for those of us who aren't financial wizards, what exactly should we be paying attention to here?
Think of it like this. We're checking their vital signs. We want to see how their assets, the things they own, compare to their liabilities, what they owe. A healthy balance sheet assets outweighing liabilities that's crucial for any company's long-term success.
So based on these statements, how's Aether looking?
Healthy. They've got a really strong asset base, mostly driven by their property, their plants, their equipment, which makes sense considering all this expansion they're doing. And their capital work in progress is significant too, showing those investments in future growth.
So those expansion plans, they're not just talk, they're backing it up with action.
Exactly. And then on the liabilities side, we see the usual stuff. Financial liabilities like lease obligations, borrowings. Pretty standard for a company of their size.
Anything there that raises a red flag?
Not really, no. Their debt levels seem manageable, especially considering how strong their cash flow from operations is.
Right. Their statement of cash flows, that's where we see the actual movement of money in and out of the company.
Exactly. And it shows they're generating a ton of cash from their core operations. That's a really great sign. It means they're not relying too heavily on loans or outside investments to fuel their expansion.
So financially independent, calling their own shots?
Pretty much. Gives them a lot of flexibility. Now, profitability, are they turning all those impressive revenues into actual profits?
That's the million-dollar question.
And that's where the profit and loss statement comes in. The short answer is yes, they are. As we saw earlier, their profit after tax has been growing at a crazy rate, both standalone and consolidated.
And we know their large-scale manufacturing model is a big factor there, right? That's their bread and butter.
Absolutely. While they do operate across a bunch of different business models, large-scale manufacturing is their core strength.
Makes sense. But it's still good to see them branching out into these new areas like we talked about. Those ventures could really start to add to their bottom line in a big way down the line.
Definitely.
It's really all coming together now, a clear vision, strong execution, solid financials. They seem to have all the pieces in place. Okay, just to recap, strong assets, manageable debt, healthy cash flow, good profitability. Anything else we should highlight from these statements?
One thing that stands out to me is their R&D expenditure. Aether's been steadily increasing how much they invest in research and development. For the first 9 months of FY25, they spent 469.96 million rupees on R&D,
Okay, and that's...
7.4% of their total revenue.
So what does that tell us?
It tells us they're not just coasting along, content with what they have. They're investing in innovation and developing new products, new technologies to stay ahead of the curve.
They're playing the long game, basically.
Exactly. It shows commitment to the future, to staying at the cutting edge of their industry.
I like it. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Aether has a solid financial foundation, a clear growth strategy, and they're committed to innovation. But let's bring it back to our listener for a second. What does all of this mean for someone who might be thinking about, I don't know, investing in Aether, or just someone who wants to understand the company better?
It's about connecting these financial insights to the big picture. Aether is operating in a growing industry. They've proven they can overcome challenges, they're committed to sustainability, and they're not afraid to be ambitious with these new ventures. It all points to a company with huge potential.
So Aether is definitely a company worth watching then.
I'd say so, yeah.
But as with any investment, there are always risks to consider, right?
Oh, for sure. The specialty chemicals market can be unpredictable, competition is fierce, and, well, ultimately, Aether's success depends on their ability to execute those big plans.
A lot of moving pieces. It's never a sure thing.
You got it.
Right, it's never a guarantee. Okay, well, let's break down those new ventures a bit more. Starting with pharmaceuticals, seems like a natural fit, given their expertise.
Yeah, they're probably going to focus on developing and manufacturing those, what were they called? Advanced intermediates and active pharmaceutical ingredients.
Right, the building blocks for medications.
Right.
So playing to their strengths with the complex chemistry and high-purity chemicals.
Exactly. The pharma industry needs that stuff, and Aether can deliver.
Smart move. Okay, and agrochemicals, same idea, right? Taking what they know and applying it to a different market.
Pretty much that expertise with chemical synthesis and formulation will be a huge asset in developing crop protection solutions, fertilizers.
Especially in India, where agriculture is so important.
Well.
Big market, big impact potential.
Right. And then renewables. This is the one that really piqued my interest.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they could really make a difference here, right? Providing those crucial components for solar panels, wind turbines, batteries.
Yep, the chemical building blocks for a clean energy future.
Love it. And it ties in nicely with their investment in that solar plant. They're really putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to renewables.
Absolutely. Actions speak louder than words. Okay, so we've talked a lot about sustainability, but what does that actually look like in practice for a company like Aether?
Yeah, it's a bit of a buzzword these days. What are they actually doing?
Well, it's about going beyond just producing chemicals, right? It's
Yeah.
about the whole life cycle of their products, their processes, thinking about the environmental impact every step of the way.
So eco-friendly manufacturing, minimizing waste, biodegradable products, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and it's becoming a necessity, really. Consumers are demanding it, investors are looking for it. Companies that ignore sustainability, they're going to get left behind.
Totally. It's not just a nice to have anymore. It's a core part of doing business. And Aether seems to get that. Okay, so big picture. Aether's diversifying, positioning themselves as a leader in this transition to a more sustainable future.
Yeah, it's a smart strategy and, frankly, a pretty inspiring one. They're not just chasing profits, they're trying to make a difference.
Agreed. Well, I think we've officially unpacked Aether Industries. You are now armed with enough knowledge to impress even the most seasoned investor, or at
Yeah.
least win a round or two at trivia night.
Don't forget about trivia night.
Never. Okay, so one thing that really stood out to me while going through all this research, Ether is really putting themselves at this intersection of specialty chemicals and sustainability. That's a powerful combination. Do you think it's a smart move for the long term? And how might it impact their growth compared to, those competitors who are sticking to more traditional methods? Something to think about.
Lots to ponder.
And if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, we've included links to all of those sources in the show notes. Happy reading. And until next time, this has been The Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well informed.